What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. Today we're going to be jumping into Deathstroke Incorporated issue number 10. This is going to be year 1, part 1. As we jump into this brand new story arc, it is taking us into the past. The first year that Slade Wilson was Deathstroke. And it's going to be nice taking a step back, especially after the events of Shadow War. In that event, we saw Talia al Ghul kill Deathstroke, with his secret society grabbing his body. They took him to a Lazarus pit. This is where he was reborn. What they didn't know is that there has been something wrong with the pits. Even Ra's al Ghul, he wouldn't use these pits himself. Nobody really understanding the true issues of what's going on here. Robin has found himself back on Lazarus Island in the Robin series. Deathstroke more than likely gonna play a significant part in what happens in Dark Crisis. For the time being, we are gonna see what made him Deathstroke. Now, make sure that you guys sub to the channel, like the video, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we are jumping into Deathstroke issue number 10, we are picking up with the experiments. Slade Wilson agreeing to this program. He was brought on board and they are trying to make him a super soldier. As he wakes up on this table, he has no memory of what he is doing here, of why he is here. And this is when he turns immediately hostile, starts attacking all of the doctors in the room, trying to figure out where he is. As he makes his way through this facility, this is where he gets met by US military personnel, having guns drawn on him. He is recognizing that he is in America. This means that he's not a prisoner of another country. Nonetheless, these guys have guns drawn on him, and he is still trying to get some answers. Beating the crap out of one of these guys, he takes his gun away. In doing so, he questions him, trying to get any information that he can. This is when from behind him, he gets hit with some electricity. Getting hit with this taser gun, it drops him down to the ground, and they let Slade Wilson know that we are on your side. You may not remember what is going on now, but in time, you just might. The next time that Slade Wilson comes to consciousness, he finds himself secured down to this table, unable to move, unable to get up. The head doctor being in the room, letting him know exactly where he is and why he is here. He is going through the ACTH experiments. This experimental procedure, he is being let known he volunteered for. The injections, they were supposed to help with his memory. They were supposed to help with his strength. He was supposed to be the next step in really human evolution, but they have seen some unpredictable side effects. One of them being memory loss. But more than anything, Slade Wilson feels like his body is dying on him. And so weeks pass. He slips in and out of consciousness, his body fighting itself, eating its own muscle, not really wanting anybody to see him like this. He sees some old comrades. They come by, they stop in, and they just check on him. Truth being told, Slade Wilson looks worse than he ever has before. But if anybody is able to make it through this and survive, it is Slade Wilson. And then those weeks, they turn into months. And for the first time since he volunteered for this procedure, he is able to see his wife and child. Addie and Grant, they come to see him, but in the current state that he is in, he is almost to a point of geriatric, running out of breath after only about 100 feet or so, unable to walk unsupported. And while his wife is very much worried about him, he lets it be known that he is okay, that this is nothing that he can't recover from. And it takes a huge chunk out of his ego, the fact that his wife and son are here and they are seeing him in this condition. But his wife lets him know that she has been talking to some of her old military contacts. One of them is starting up a security firm. With Slade Wilson's military background, they are more than willing to bring him onto the roster. Of course, Slade Wilson, he has no interest in being a glorified security guard. After the things that he has done, the places that he has been, he feels like that kind of work is almost beneath him. But while he is telling his wife that he has no interest in doing this, this is where he collapses. This is where he falls into a coma. Not really sure how long that he is like this. He can hear small things. He can hear the doctors, the muffles in the distance. One thing that he does know, the doctors are saying that this experiment, it is a failure, and Slade Wilson is dying. Even if he makes it out of this, he is never going to be the same. More than a decade of service, ready to give everything for his country. And at the end of the day, that is exactly what they took from him. These experiments were supposed to make him stronger, to make him unstoppable, the world's first super soldier. But instead, this thing is eating him from the inside out, leaving him nothing more than a shell of a human being. They betrayed him, and now they are throwing him to the side. This is something that Slade Wilson will never forget. Once he is able to come out of this coma, his vitals stabilize. A week later, to everybody's surprise, he is discharged, and then the program is shut down. He is then given an honorable discharge from the military, a full pension, and a half-hearted handshake. In the coming days and weeks, Slade Wilson, for his wife, he takes that security job. They make promises that this is going to be more than just guarding the rich in their possessions. However, that is exactly what this turns out to be, and he hates it more than he ever thought possible. Just the sheer humiliation of dressing like a toy soldier, having orders barked to him by some soft, rich socialites. He hated every moment of doing this job, but still he tried. He tried to be a father. He tried to be a husband. Taking young Grant out hunting, setting up some traps, learning how to trap rabbits. Now, Grant being a young age, this is not necessarily traumatic for him, but at the end of the day, it's something a 5-year-old wasn't really expecting to see. But Slade Wilson was raised this way, and he sees no harm in teaching him how to hunt. His wife, on the other hand, she is very upset about this, saying that he is 5 years old and he shouldn't be out doing things like this, that there are 1,000 other normal things that he could be doing, from getting ice cream to going swimming or going to the park. Now, in my opinion, I think hunting is an absolutely perfectly fine thing for a father and son, father and daughter to do together. In fact, it is a very invaluable skill to have later on in life. And so his wife is a little bit hard on him just because he went hunting for rabbits. The truth is, Slade Wilson is hating this life. Not that he hates his son or his wife. He just feels like there is something more. He yearns to be more. His wife letting him know that one day he is going to have to choose to be a family man or to be that soldier. What she doesn't know is that at night, Slade Wilson, he slips out. He goes outside, puts on a mask, and he causes some trouble to feel that adrenaline rush, to know that he is alive, to know what he is capable of. He looks for that release. Ever since he was sent home, his brain has been racing. It needs more. He is stronger. He can feel this. And so every night he pushes himself to test the limits of his abilities. This first started at bars. Finding the biggest biker he can in these places, he takes them on one-on-one. Eventually, this escalates to 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-1, until he is taking out everybody in the bar. This has been going on for an entire month. And after a month of beating up bikers and bars, he has come to the conclusion that he needs something more, because he is able to heal from knife wounds, bruises, healing in either minutes or at the most hours. By the next day, it's as if he never got in a fight at all. One of these nights, the police show up and they lock up everybody for this fight. It doesn't take long for him to be able to make bail, his wife bailing him out and letting him know that this has to stop, that it is time to finally choose, that dealing with the trauma of war, dealing with PTSD, it is something that every soldier that has been over there and knows what it is has had to deal with. She believes that he is not facing this properly, but nonetheless, he needs to figure this out because his family, they need a father. She needs a husband. The next day, he ends up taking Grant to the playground. as he sits here and watches his son play, we have an individual by the name of William Walsh. He sits down next to him, and he lets him know that he has been observing him, keeping his eyes on everything that Slade Wilson has been doing ever since the program had been disbanded. He has come here to offer him a deal, both of them knowing that the program wasn't a failure. And while only a select few individuals actually know about the program, Dr. Francis Campbell, the one that was running all of these experiments, they had failure after failure. Slade Wilson was the only one to survive these trials. All records of this experiment in this program, they had been destroyed. The only people that actually know anything about what happened, about the true intentions, is Dr. Campbell, Mr. Walsh, and Slade Wilson. Now Walsh, he wants to come forward about all of these experiments, expose exactly what happened, and all of the deaths that came from the program. If Dr. Campbell did come forward with this information, there is a good chance that Slade Wilson's life, his family's life, it would never be the same again, because his name would also be brought up in this. Mr. Walsh letting him know that Campbell needs to be stopped. They're also willing to offer him $1 million to do this job, not letting him know exactly who is the benefactor behind all of this money. He does say that the military would like to ensure that this secret doesn't get out. And from that moment, he recognized that his wife was right. He had a path to choose, father or mercenary. And when that moment came to be, for Slade Wilson, this choice was easy. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we have Slade Wilson who has accepted his first contract, being paid $1 million. He has been contracted to kill the doctor that ran the experiments on him. And if he is being honest with himself, he has never felt more alive. He has regained his sense of purpose. He now has a new mission. And while little Grant doesn't want him to leave, his father had just returned, just wanting him to be there with him. This is something that Slade simply cannot do. His family believes he's going on a hunting trip. And while he knows that he should feel something while his son is sitting here crying before him, the only thing he really feels is annoyance at him for being weak, at himself for feeling this way. But there is nothing there. There is no love. There is only frustration, almost as if his son and wife are really keeping him from the life that he would love to lead, the life that he feels he never should have left. And so as Slade and Wintergreen, they take off. They begin going over the entire dossier. The doctor he has been contracted to kill, Dr. Campbell, he was the lead on the team that conducted the experiments on him and 47 other soldiers. All of them, like him, re-enlisted or previously injured in the line of duty. All of them looking for a second shot of glory. Unlike him, all other 47 soldiers died during the experiments. And every single death covered up, millions paid out to families, widows, or whoever else might ask any questions. They all got proper military burials. Cause of death was listed as an accident or combat related. It is one absolute cover-up. More than a dozen doctors involved. Twice as many guards and admin workers. Every single one of them have died. Car accidents, slipping in the shower, carbon monoxide. The list goes on and on and on. Dr. Campbell is the last one standing. He knew that he was being targeted, and so he turned himself in to the FBI. Currently held up in Seattle. He is negotiating the terms of his deal. And Slade has to ask the question, why would they spend millions of dollars to silence victims and families, but just kill off the scientists? And that is because the doctors and everyone else that they murdered, they were the ones that really knew what was happening. And dead men simply don't talk. This is when we pick up with Adeline, Slade Wilson's wife, having little Grant with her there at the grocery store. And what we are seeing is that she is going to get a pregnancy test. Finally getting to Isherwood's place, Slade and Wintergreen, they go inside. Walking into his workshop, Isherwood has been working on something that is going to be really great for Slade Wilson. Ever since the experiment, Slade Wilson, he has learned that he has been stabbed, stomped on, just about every bone in his body has been shattered. And within minutes, maybe hours, these things are healing up. But even with all of this, Slade Wilson is not bulletproof. They don't really know the true extent of his abilities just yet. But he has something that is really going to even the playing field. Something that will make him bulletproof. Because Isherwood has been working on a suit. Fibers made out of promethium, a brand new metallic compound from a lab out in New York City. Having many different applications, they began making full combat suits. The fabric being self-healing. It is the perfect suit. Of course, this is something that is just experimental. Many of them have been written off as non-effective, because sometimes this fiber isn't as stable as they would like it to be. But he assures Slade Wilson that this one is the real deal. And so trying this suit on, this is the first time that we see Slade Wilson dressed up in his costume as Deathstroke, even making a comment that he is not a big fan of the orange, believing that he's going to stick out like a sore thumb. This is just an experimental outfit. He hasn't had the time to go about painting it and making it more stealth-like. And so throwing his suit on, he goes outside and he begins practicing how to shoot with this suit on, making sure that he is 100% comfortable before he goes into battle. While they're sitting out here, Wintergreen lets him know that the path that he is going down, it could be very dangerous. Not in the terms of his life, not in the terms of life and death, but so much so on his mental capacity. That fighting in a war, that is one thing. Going down the path of being a mercenary, that is a whole different path. And while this first mission, it may be justified, what comes after? Who do they ask you to kill next? Not only that, the people that are going to be protecting this doctor, more than likely, they are going to be prior soldiers. As Slade Wilson really just chalks this up to they know what they're getting themselves into. They signed up for the job, this is the job. Making their way to Seattle, Washington. They have scoped it out, they have planned it, they are getting ready for their assault. Thinking to himself that Wintergreen is right. He can tell himself all day that he is doing this because of what had that doctor done to him. But that wouldn't necessarily be a lie. But there is definitely more to the story. He has only ever been good at one thing. He knows that this makes him a monster because killing is the only thing he has ever been truly great at. The world needs monsters like him. Wintergreen setting the explosive charge down in the basement. This is going to kill the lights and security. Deathstroke waiting on the rooftop. As Wintergreen makes his escape, the bomb detonates. The agents are now alerted, recognizing that everything has gone dark and they are under attack. They try to get the doctor to safety, but before they can do so, it is already too late. Trying to make their way through the stairway, this is where Slade Wilson comes walking up, making dudes lay down left and right. There is nothing that can stop Slade Wilson, or at least so he thinks. As he is opening fire on all of these federal agents, that is when an arrow lands directly in his barrel, the weapon backfiring and exploding in his hand. This is where we see the one, the only Green Arrow coming in with a perfect arrow shot, letting the federal agents know that he has it from here. What comes next is Slade Wilson versus Oliver Queen. Alright gang, so as we jump into part 3 of year 1, Deathstroke thinks to himself, this should have been easy. That he was simply supposed to take out one guy who killed tons of other guys. But things are never easy. Deathstroke did not expect Green Arrow to show up on scene, really believing him to be more of a joke, a guy showing up with a freaking bow and arrow to a gunfight. But Green Arrow lets him know that he doesn't know who he is, but if he is trying to be stealthy, his costume, his suit with the bright orange, it is a dead giveaway. This is when Deathstroke takes an arrow right to the shoulder, being able to get away and hide in the shadows. The Green Arrow taunts him, tries to draw him out, tries to get him to say anything so he can get his location, but Deathstroke remains silent. He waits for his opportunity. With Green Arrow just talking away, we see Deathstroke pull up his pistol and he unloads it. Meanwhile, up on the rooftop, his target is getting away. Wintergreen has the opportunity to take the shot, but Deathstroke lets him know that he better not, that this is his contract, his mission to do, and no one is going to kill that doctor unless it is him. As him and Green Arrow continue their battle, Green Arrow taking some heavy punches to the face, Deathstroke getting torn up by some arrows. He lets Green Arrow know that he is way in over his head. This is when Green Arrow charges, saying that he is the protector of this city. Deathstroke grabs him, tosses him right over the ledge. This is when he makes his way up to the rooftop, having a helicopter circle. All of these agents are trying to get the doctor out of here, and one by one, Deathstroke starts putting down these agents, letting them know it doesn't have to be this way, that they can simply walk away now, give up the doctor, and let him do what he came to do. Of course, these men are not standing down, and so the firefight erupts. And from the helicopter, there is a freaking minigun. It starts unloading all over the top of this building. This chases Deathstroke back inside the building, keeping him pinned down temporarily. What they don't know is that Wintergreen is out there. Wintergreen taking his sniper rifle, taking the shot, and bringing down the gunner inside the helicopter. With their cover fire taken out, Deathstroke goes to move in, getting within feet of his target. This is when Green Arrow shows back up, catching him off guard, tackling him to the ground. The two of them start beating the crap out of one another. But it appears that Deathstroke has been bested. Too many forces against him, having too many wounds that are not healing quick enough. Not expecting to find someone like Green Arrow on scene. He has bitten off way more than he can chew. Lucky for him, this is when one of the agents go to put a bullet into Deathstroke's head, letting them know that he cannot stay alive. He has killed dozens of agents, and now he is going to pay for it. Of course, Green Arrow, he can't allow this to happen. Going to stop the agent, he pulls up his bow. Before he is able to get an arrow off, Wintergreen has already put a hole in the back of the head of this agent. This is when Green Arrow recognizes that he has backup, telling Wintergreen to get out of here. Arrow drawn on Deathstroke. He knows he is out of options. Raising his hands up to the sky, he lets him know that he is surrendering. As the agents and Green Arrow all begin to swarm in on him, he thinks to himself that this all should have been easy. All he had to do was kill one man, but now he is recognizing that this is something much bigger than himself. Trapped with no way out, he does a desperate move. Still a little bit injured, his healing ability not working to its fullest capacity. That's because all of his wounds are so severe. It's taking a little more time than usual, but he leaps off of this building, thinking maybe, just maybe, he can make it to the building across the street. That's when Green Arrow lets loose an arrow with a rope attached to it, piercing right through the chest of him. An extremely precise arrow, missing his heart, lungs, and spine. Even Deathstroke recognizes how much skill that has to take. He knew exactly where to hit him to keep him alive. Deathstroke taking out his sword and cutting that rope, because there is no way he is going to prison. There is no way he will be disgraced in that manner. That if this is where it ends, then this is where it ends. And we see Deathstroke fall, falling all the way down to the pavement, his body lying there, appearing to be lifeless. He wanted to end it on his terms, and that is exactly what he has done. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up at the morgue. Slade Wilson waking up. He wakes up to somebody literally cutting him open, doing an autopsy, grabbing hold of that scalpel and asking where he is. This man truly thought that Slade Wilson was dead when they brought him in here with all the others. There was no sign that this man was alive. The medical examiner is in absolute shock, but Deathstroke is able to get the answers that he needs. And if there was any question on how far he can push his healing factor, that has been answered today, because he should be dead. Following those 10 stories, any regular person would have met their demise. Asking where his clothes and weapons are, the medical examiner lets him know that the police took them to evidence, that they just left. That is when Addie is starting to call Wintergreen, because Slade Wilson was supposed to be going on a hunting trip. She hasn't heard from her husband, just recently finding out that she is pregnant with yet another child. Slade has yet to hear this information. We can see how much trauma and turmoil Slade is putting her through, and Wintergreen is unable to answer the phone. He knows what has happened to Slade, or at least he believes he knows what has happened. He saw his body fall. He cannot bring himself to call her and let her know that Slade is not coming home. But he is alive and well. In fact, he is currently hijacking a vehicle, commandeering this car so that he can catch up with the police officers. He knows that he needs to get this armor back. Get it back before it leads police back to Isherwood. That would lead back to him, to Addie. He doesn't want any of this blowing back on his family or anybody else. Catching up with this cop car, he knocks it off the road, careening off of the bridge, flipping upside down. Slade Wilson goes over to them and lets them know that he needs his armor, he needs his weaponry, that he will not hesitate to set this car ablaze with them inside. With him getting his equipment back, that is where he goes to Wintergreen. Wintergreen in a drunken stupor, trying to build up the courage to be able to tell Addie that Slade Wilson had died. It's obviously a huge shock to find him still alive. For Slade, he also thought that he was dead. That is, until he woke up naked on a metal slab in the corner about ready to slice him open. This is all because of the experiment. He knew that he had a healing factor. He's been stabbed, bruised, but he has never dealt with injuries like death. He never knew that it could bring him back after something like that. Wintergreen being drunk still, they pull a car over and he throws up. Slade saying that they need to figure out where Dr. Campbell went off to, because he still has a contract to fulfill. Wintergreen knows where he is. The two of them hitting a diner to get some coffee, get some food into Wintergreen's system. He was able to track a military chopper, the one that took the doctor, calling in a few favors. It landed at a private airfield in Seattle. Shortly after its landing, there was another takeoff from the same airfield, headed for a military base in Bear Valley, California. He believes that Dr. Campbell is at that military facility. With Wintergreen believing that Slade Wilson was dead, he was going to complete the contract, because that $1 million, it would have set Addie and the kid up for years. At this point, they don't know that she is pregnant with yet another child. Wintergreen had felt responsible. He felt like getting that $1 million may be the one way to kind of pay it back. Not in full, but at least it would be something. And so with them getting ready to head out, Slade Wilson a little upset with Isherwood, because this suit that he has, it can take bullets, but Green Arrow's arrows, they cut right through it. He's upset because it did so. In Isherwood's defense, they didn't anticipate being hit with arrows. This was meant for modern combat, not for weaponry that hasn't been used on the battlefield for like 200 years. years, with extreme rare exceptions. But before they get in the car, Wintergreen tells him that you need to call your wife. She has been blowing up my phone every couple of minutes. This is not something that we can set to the side. You need to call her and you need to do it now. Going over to a payphone, that is when he makes the call. He makes an excuse, saying that they ended up in Oregon because they'd rather hunt bear and mountain lion, with Slade being upset that he even has to make this call, wondering if this is just her trying to check in on him. She lets him know that she is pregnant. The only thing Slade says is okay, hanging up the phone after saying that he has to go. He smashes that phone and they take off. They head to Bear Valley, California. Seeing this military facility, this place is a freaking fortress. No way to tell where Dr. Campbell is being held, not knowing how many men are on the ground. After Seattle and the trail of dead agents, they can assume that there is going to be a small army inside. This is a suicide mission, but Slade gave his word. He is going to complete this contract. On the cliffside, this is where they see him. Another team has come into play. This is Walsh's contingency plan. After the fiasco that happened in Seattle, everybody believes Slade Wilson to be dead. Wanting to make sure that Dr. Campbell was taken out, he sent in another team. And now that he is not dead, he is not going to let anybody poach this contract from him. Alright gang, so as we pick up at our secret facility in Bear Valley, California, we have Deathstroke, who is about ready to enter this facility. Right now, he has 3 unknowns. They are armed to the teeth, high-tech weaponry, and intentions to beat them to the punch. As far as Walsh knows, he is dead, and so Walsh more than likely sent these 3 in as a contingency plan. But Deathstroke took this contract. He agreed to kill the doctor who had experimented on him. As he begins to make his way through the facility, he sees that these guys are professionals. Dozens dead, laying in pools of their own blood, all of them killed before they could even get a shot off. That is what picks us up with Dr. Campbell. Surrounded by guards, this is where the mercenaries are getting ready to come in on him. The guards not knowing which direction these guys are coming from. That is where we have the arrival of the individuals known as Stock, Muzzle, and Bolster. These mercenaries waste no time cutting these guards in half, completely mowing them down. Dr. Campbell, he finds himself locked behind a force field. And so while they attempt to hack this, we see Deathstroke kill Bolster almost immediately, taking him off of the board. We see Stock go in on Deathstroke. These guys are much faster than he had anticipated, guessing that he is not the only augmented soldier that Walsh had created. Deathstroke being outmaneuvered, recognizing that he ran in blind, so desperate to stop them, he paid the price. The blade that went through him, severing his spine, making his legs useless. He falls down to the ground and he appears to be dead. Muzzle taking his gun and shooting him multiple times, just to be sure that he stays down. This is when they get on the horn with Walsh, letting him know that the mission is almost done. But they also let Walsh know that Deathstroke also showed up, with Walsh asking confirmation if it is actually Deathstroke. To ask them to confirm the identity, they turn around only to find that Deathstroke's body, it is gone. Recognizing that Slade is gone, they begin searching. As they walk through these corridors, Stock disappears. Not sure where he is or where he went. We see that Deathstroke has grabbed hold of him, and Deathstroke, he slices and dices. He cuts off Stock's arms, and he drives a sword right through his freaking stomach. When Muzzle goes looking, the only thing he finds is the armless body of his friend. And from behind him, that is where Deathstroke is. Each of them exchanging gunfire. But it appears that Muzzle, he did not have any kind of bulletproof vest on. And so the bullet sinking into his body, him bleeding out on the ground. That is when Deathstroke goes to complete his contract. Dr. Campbell begging for his life. Deathstroke is letting it be known that this is because this doctor experimented on him, that he did this to 47 other soldiers. But the doctor lets us know that it wasn't him, that it was Walsh. It was all Walsh. That Dr. Campbell begged him to stop, but Walsh was obsessed with creating his super soldiers. But even if everything Dr. Campbell is saying is true, even if he is not the monster that carved him up, Deathstroke still took this contract, and so he is going to complete it. He puts a bullet in his head and he makes his way out of the facility, trying to get in contact with Wintergreen. Wintergreen is not answering. Running outside, this is where he finds that Muzzle has Wintergreen at gunpoint, doing the same exact thing that Deathstroke had done, playing possum until he went away. Now he is telling Deathstroke to put down his weapons before he puts a bullet into Wintergreen's head. Alright gang, so as we dive into the final issue, we have Muzzle holding a gun to Wintergreen's head. Both Deathstroke and Wintergreen currently being held hostage. They are making their way to an abandoned airfield. Muzzle going on to say that Walsh set all of this up. Not necessarily the fact that Deathstroke would be dead or anything, just the fact that Muzzle seems to be one of his favorite hitmen. But Walsh does want to have some words with Deathstroke. That is the only reason that they are still alive. And so loading them up onto the plane, as they take off into the air, this is where Muzzle says that Wintergreen is not a necessity when they go to meet Walsh, that Walsh only cares about Deathstroke. And so Muzzle takes Wintergreen, he opens up the back of the aircraft, and he gets ready to throw him out, with Slade warning him that if he hurts a single hair on Wintergreen's head, he will break free of these chains and he will kill him. Now, of course, Muzzle, he takes these threats as absolutely nothing, getting ready to dump the body of Wintergreen out of the aircraft. Deathstroke breaking his chains, coming up from behind Muzzle, grabbing him by the throat. Wintergreen hanging on to the very ledge of this plane. We see the fight ensue, with Muzzle being able to break free of his grasp, going and grabbing a gun. He turns to go and shoot Muzzle, only to see that Wintergreen already has a gun. Deathstroke had pulled him up. They pulled a gun on Muzzle and they put 3 into his chest. But Deathstroke knows that this doesn't kill Muzzle, and so he grabs him and he throws him out of the plane. With the aircraft on autopilot, it is bringing them directly where Deathstroke wants to go. That is to Walsh. That is what takes us to the secret location on the Atlantic coast. With Walsh recognizing that Muzzle and the rest of his team are not here, he is absolutely irate, saying that those were his best men. But the truth is, Slade doesn't care. The contract was his, telling Walsh that he should have never hired anybody else. But also, if those men are what you call your best, then you have to do much better than that. But Slade wants his money. A mission completed, he gets $1 million. With Deathstroke turning around, headed back to the aircraft, Walsh tries to stop him, saying that there is so much more money where that came from. That if you join me, if you train my new team, if you train my new initiative, I can give you a purpose that you thought was once lost. This is when Deathstroke reveals that everything was exposed to him. Everything about the experiments, about the super soldiers, about what happened to him, how Walsh was the one to do all of this. But Deathstroke is trying to be an assassin. He's trying to get into this line of work. If he were to kill Walsh right now, that could end a lot of future contracts. And so, he lets it be known that he fulfilled his contract. He gave his word. But he is not interested in joining any club. He is a free agent, saying that if you want to hire me to do a job, I will do it. That if somebody else hires me to kill you, I will do it. And so they get in the plane, they take off. That is where we pick up with Slade Wilson showing up back home. As he walks in the front door, his wife slaps him in the face. The two of them going off to have a conversation. She is absolutely livid. Not only did she just recently find out she was pregnant, but when she told Slade Wilson, he didn't really have much to say. In fact, he hung up on her. She also believes that he wasn't out deer hunting, coming back with no meat, no bear hides, nothing. And so now she is asking, what is going on? That she understands this suburban lifestyle. It's not what you wanted. It is not what you currently want. But you have children. It is your job to be here for them. That they are in this together no matter how much he wants to fight against it. But this is when Slade, he grabs her, he holds her close. He lets her know that they were simply out hunting. That they didn't catch anything. That he simply needed time to work things out. Drinking beers, trading war stories, all of that good stuff. And he agrees that this life, it is taking a lot to adjust to. He just needed some days to process how everything is going. But he does let her know that he is happy. Underneath the surface, lying comes easier and easier, telling her what she needs to hear. It took him a long time, but now he is realizing that this is a good life. That it is a good cover. That if he is going to keep being an assassin, he needs to be looking upwards. He needs to keep up all of these outward appearances. A wife, a family, a house in the suburbs. This is all a front. This is all a mask. So that Deathstroke can continue doing what he does best. That is hunting. That is killing. Proving hit after hit that he is in fact the world's greatest assassin. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. So when it comes to the entire series, it wasn't that great of a story. But when we tie in all of the Shadow War stuff, when we tie in the origin story or the year one of Deathstroke, it definitely helps make this line, this run, a much better series. I have always been a fan of the year one stories. More specifically, Barry Allen's year one is probably my favorite done in recent years. But this Deathstroke year one, it was a ton of fun. We got to see his first contract, how he got mixed up in all of this, and what led him to eventually be the world's greatest assassin. All in all, it was fun, it was enjoyable. It's sad that it's kind of over already. I was really hoping that we would get more from the Deathstroke story, but with everything that happened in Dark Crisis, it's safe to say that we're probably not going to see Deathstroke for quite a while. But let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you would like to get completely caught up on everything that has been going on with this story, do me a favor, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It will get you completely caught up on everything that is going on with Deathstroke. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having 5 different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to getting free comics every single month. Not only does this help out the channel tremendously, but you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you are unable to do that, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.